Up, everybody? This is Gabby Staten Island on the Craft Growers Network, and we are excited to have you join us today for this live. We tried to do it a couple of weeks ago and had some technical difficulties, but we are back, we're connected, and we have our special guest, AC Moon, who's a legacy grower in Humboldt. She's a cannabis advocate, an educator, an inventor. She's got a whole bunch of cool stuff to share with us today. So I am glad that you could join us. And before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors. First, we've got Method 7. Do not grow blind, people. If you are growing with indoor lights, it's imperative that you do something to protect your vision. And Method 7, in my opinion, they've got the highest quality products, best style. So, yeah, check them out at method7.com. You can use the code CRAFTGROWERS for a discount. Also, much thanks to Dr. Dabber. I have not been able to get the affiliate code to work yet, but go check out Dr. Dabber at drdabber.com. They've got some great stuff. They just sent me the Switch Go. Super excited about it. And finally, Helios Supply. I always kind of laugh a little bit when I think about that I have a sponsor that's like a battery manufacturer and a cart manufacturer, but these carts and these batteries are the best carts and batteries that I've seen, and yeah, I love them. I use it every day. I will be using it today. And so with that, I'm going to turn the podcast over to our lovely host Sarah Koya, and yeah,
Hello.
I'm excited to have you all here.
Yeah.
I might.
So,
I'm gonna let you guys talk for a second, and I'm gonna disconnect and reconnect just to see if I can get the chat going. But you guys can just keep
okay.
going. All
Yeah,
right.
I can see the chat on my end
I
so
can't
far,
see it, and
but
if I can't see it, I can't like post the little comments on the bottom and stuff. So I'm gonna try to
right,
disconnect.
right.
But go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Women of Weed. Welcome, AC Moon.
Woohoo!
Gabby, we've had a short list of your very long list of stuff you've got going on. Just to point out, he mentioned that you're an inventor. AC is the inventor of a crop top greenhouse, which is a very cool invention to keep out bugs, mold, pests from your greenhouses. You can find out more about that at hercroptopgreenhouses.com. Also, the founder of Indica Innovations, where she offers consulting services to international clients. So, for not just up in Humboldt, but all over the world. I've seen you busying around in, was it St. Lucas recently or one of the Caribbean
Uh,
islands?
St. Croix, currently
St.
working
Croix.
at
Yeah.
United
Yeah.
for
Helping those guys there. AC, also, you've been working with the Cal Legacy Project,
yes.
and have been very active advocate for the plant for many years. Second generation legacy gardener, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So with all that going on, I'm just really grateful for your time today.
Thanks. I
And
appreciate you having me on and appreciate your patience in getting me on because out in the cut sometimes it can be challenging. Tech issues are real.
yeah,
They're super real.
yeah, that's it. That's it. So, was it last Friday you went to speak at the State House there in Sacramento for the final findings of the Cal Legacy Group for your board? Is that correct?
Well, I am one of the participants as an advisory board member with the Origins Council, created Cal Legacy Genetics Project, which is confusingly funded by the DCC, which is Department of Cannabis Control in California, in
Hmm.
order to preserve the heritage, culture, and genetics of California state. So this project has gone on for about 2 years. I'm also a research participant, so I've shared my story as well as the genetics that I've worked on and worked around. And the dissemination event was a culmination of some brilliant researchers that, Dominic Corva, that was working with Cal Poly, as well as, I mean, several others. others, Todd Holmes from UC Berkeley Library History Museum, that every aspect would take and interviewed over 100 people in order to map the genetic legacy of California cannabis all the way from the 60s forward. We have some of the
Wow.
elders in the room. The inventor of Prototype is on our board as well. Some really great people that have worked really hard in the industry. So we have a lot of diverse opinions.
Can I
And
interrupt you real fast?
yeah, of course.
Inventor of the prototype. Who's that?
His name is Richard.
Because the person that I'm trying to remember his name and I can't remember it. But he did the artwork for my store, like the Garden Spout years ago, and he told me that he invented the prototype.
Oh,
Huh.
interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Mm.
so I
Well, this
wish
older
I wish
gentleman
Not So Dog was here because he would remember the guy's name. Not So
and
Dog
Huh.
is busy today. Sorry he couldn't join us, everybody.
well,
Um,
bummer, not so dog is not so dogging then, dude.
he's dogging us.
Ah,
Yeah,
not so
bad.
Yeah,
So
but go ahead.
Man.
yeah,
I wish
no,
I could remember the guy's name.
the Cal Legacy Project's been a really unique thing, and really the highlight of it is they created what we call community participation-based research, and really it's about the research is of the people and of the plants and of the legacy that we have created through all the years. So all of the researchers did a great job, and I've been having just an amazing time working as an advisory board member. And so during the dissemination event, we all gathered down at the state capitol at the Capitol Conference Building, something to that effect. And we all had several minutes to be able to, convey our stories and what we experienced through Prohibition up till today, and then how we felt about, excuse me, future policy recommendations on different subjects. And so we would have several different policy recommendations that we would speak to. I spoke myself to intellectual property protection of genetics. And so I've worked with patented genetics of Steve Covey, who was the first patented breeder in the United States, and several other projects where we've been working on creating IP portfolios and teaching breeders how to actually create intellectual property rights or plant breeding rights that would allow them to bring their genetics safely into commerce or license them. And so the conversation there was really poignantly about standing up for the protection and really asking the DCC, the people publicly, if they would help us create a standardized system within the state of California that would seamlessly work within Metric. A lot of the breeders that we have are not in Metric. So we have talked with Caleb Chen, did a thesis at Cal Poly during his sociology degree master's about the bottlenecking of cannabis due to prohibition. And that's a really huge thing because only certain breeders or certain genetics are allowed into the Metric system, and then they're not proliferated very well. And so a lot of the legacy genetics and all the different cultivars that we've all really loved and really have been the basis of all hybrids of modern cannabis are being lost because we don't work as privatized individual breeders. There's no entry into the Metric system unless you pander towards a larger farm or get someone to grow your strain, or it's really hard to get licensing agreements with larger entities in order to get your genetics into the commerce field. So it is a challenge. So I was really asking the DCC to create protection rights for us to help us preserve California cannabis legacy that we have had a timestamp as being like a flagship for a lot of the other country throughout the nation to, have similar interactions with cannabis. So because of that, really just fighting for, everybody's fighting for just the protection. We realize that with rescheduling going on right now, that it's really important for each of the states, each of the nations, each of the territories to have this community-based resource and research to be able to convey to their regulators and say that this is why we need to protect our craft cultivators. And how can we protect our craft cultivators is by creating systems that work with the USPTO and the Metric system to allow home growers and medical breeders farmers that are cultivating their own breeds to be able to have an entry point with protection and then going into commerce. So it was an amazing experience. It was really heartfelt. It was a really heavy room of some classic advocates that have worked really hard. Veterans for Safe Access was there with Etienne Fontaine, who I have watched in the industry, as well as Mike Corral, the founder of WHAM, Women's Alliance for Medical Marijuana. That was created when I was a kid, way before I started. These are people that I've followed in. So I'm really honored to get a chance to stand with them as advocates and hopefully, get a chance to preserve, what we've all experienced. We're all part of this never ending story, or at least we hope it never ends, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sketchy times right now. I'm kind of questioning it, but we're hoping it's going, But yeah, Cal Legacy is amazing, and I hope that every state and territory gets a chance to pick up some similar aspects of that community-based research. It's a really powerful thing.
You said something interesting about getting cannabis strains into Metric.
Mm-hmm.
They all, everything's come from somewhere, and everything came from outside of this Metric system, but they're not reasonable with like letting people get it in. I've had people tell me that, they have to rename stuff because they have that name is under Metric, so they can
Yep.
put stuff in under that name. So like
And
we
then
don't
it goes
want,
all the way down, the name
right,
being
exactly.
all the
We don't
way.
want that. We don't want that to be the workaround of getting legacy genetics into the system that they have to be renamed. I
It's
mean,
some bullshit, but in
It kind of
general,
takes away the legacy.
it super does. And then metric system itself is a privatized, monopolized system that is controlling us. Like I've gone through embargoes and DCC raids, even in the last 2 months, where it's like entire farms get shut down because we got some tags wrong or something. And it
Wow.
is so frustrating to know that these privatized systems, Snoop Dogg is one of the investors into a system that can basically govern everybody, and we just are even implementing it now in the Virgin Islands, and it's really hard to not be kind of pissed off at these privatized systems that are running our, but it was a setup for what's to come. We'll talk about that as we move forward in this conversation, but rescheduling,
Right.
that metric was the first flagship hole that they could stick us in, so that they could stick us in a bag and like hand us to them and be like, look, we got all the data and we can shut them down when we want. So just like let us know. It just pisses me off, these systems. And that the fact that they bought BioTrack, like that against monopoly law should not be able to be happening. We have monopoly laws for a reason, for risk litigation, for political problems. Like, why are they allowed to have such a huge political stance in every single freaking state? Like a couple of them have independent, metric systems, track or trace systems, but I'm really pissed off that the metric system has so much power. It's ridiculous. So really finding ways to where, okay, yeah, we know this whole system where we can buddy up with somebody that's got a nursery license, so we can buddy up with getting a licensing agreement to a large thing, or get our marketing on point so everybody wants to buy our shit. But by that time, the second you put it into the system, if I put it on into the commerce system, I can't get a patent. I can get plant breeding rights, but then it's after 3 years of trials. So it's a real catch-22 where there isn't an entry point for creating intellectual property and still be able to make money in the system as a breeder. It's some serious bullshitty, and frustrates me to no end. So all I can do is keep trying to, unfortunately, got to politicize it a bit and be like, hey, but with the fact that they're about to legalize seeds, what do we got left but to politicize it? We need to be pissed.
Right.
We need,
right. We need to know. I think people don't understand the storm that's coming, honestly. They don't get that Schedule 3 is going to take our sacred plant and our sacred herb away from being a sacred plant and herb and put it into a pharmacology setting.
Oh yeah.
So you guys were speaking to, you're having this findings of the board. What was the reaction of the of the Cannabis Control Department, or like what it is there in California? Like, how did they respond to the board's testimony?
They, I met the director of the DCC, Clint Kellum, and he had just gained that position and was appointed by Gavin Newsom in December, I believe. So he's relatively new. And so I don't want to put too much heat on him because it is really intimidating to take on that sort of political position when you're living in the state of California with all of us that are so passionate. Um, but he definitely took the stand right off and said that his goal is to, preserve our heritage, our culture, and to be able
Mhm.
to look forward on how we can integrate into the new world. And when I approached him from across the room, I nailed him, immediately, and was like, "Hey, I introduced myself, and I, even posted about it on IG. I got an opportunity to ask him, do you believe in rescheduling or descheduling?" And at first he said, "Oh, well, I believe in rescheduling." I said, "So you believe in handing us all the big farm?" And then he was like, "No, no, no, no. I said it wrong. I believe
Huh.
in regular descheduling." And so he wants it treated like alcohol in the way that we have like this freedom movement still available for commerce and craft farmers. So I had to give him props for that and be like, okay, at least you're trying. I understand they're all jobs and I can't like pitchfork and, hate on everybody because, they're in jobs that I don't necessarily agree the point of it, but they are
Right.
governing the system. And if we can get them on our side, hopefully that it will help perpetuate them helping protect us, from whatever's coming federally. Because that's going to be a real important aspect is to have our state legislative bodies understand our plights as farmers, as breeders, as infusionists, as manufacturers, as entrepreneurs, and be able to help protect us from what is going to be a large big pharma takeover. It's going to be real hard.
Right.
Absolutely. It's going to be crazy. Oh dear. Oh dear.
So, yeah, because we're seeing even here in Ohio, we have a lot of those multi-state operators, and they're being accused by our attorney general right now of having a monopoly
They do.
or of cartel behavior is what they called it, where they're only selling their products or only really pimping their products, and they like leave the little guys stuff on the bottom shelf, even though that by law they're supposed to be having cooperating with everybody else, but they're
Uh,
really trying to choke off anybody they can and keep all the money for themselves, which is usually how greed and big business rolls, and
it's
that's why
real. It's real.
seeing, you know, hearing
But
all the undertones and the warnings coming from states that have already gone through this, like California,
right.
is something that Ohio needs to be paying attention to. But the
Absolutely.
federal closing of the loopholes in the Farm Bill are highly concerning also for small business and entrepreneurs coming up in November, because on one hand it seems like they're going to reschedule only medicinal cannabis to Schedule
Yeah.
3, right? So,
Hmm.
and then recreational cannabis, we don't know what if they'll even leave any kind of door for that,
Well, yeah. I mean,
or the states that will have these hemp, maybe they're going to allow the big alcohol to take over the hemp beverage industry, but all other hemp will still be too dangerous to be around.
yeah, it is some fuckery. I tell you, in reflection to what you said before we just started talking about rescheduling right there, back in 2018, I was hired by a large company out of New York, and me and two other consultants out of Lower Humboldt were pulled. The NDA is over now, so I can talk about it. I actually haven't talked about it in public before. We were taken to like the old Playboy Mansion down in the Bay,
Yeah.
where like these Ukrainians had come in and had blown up all of these inventions that we were coming to overview the hydroponic system and to see if it was applicable for cannabis use. And they had built these museum pedestals that grew just one cabbage that was like perfectly museum on the top of it. in order to like show us how it would be used in cannabis application. But it was not anything that would have worked for commercial use. Long story short, we ended up getting taken to Las Vegas and several other places. And this company that hired us ended up being indicted with Rudy Giuliani
Damn.
shortly after our departure, because the Ukrainians were buying the seats out in Vegas and Nevada in order to buy medicinal licenses. And then with the Trump regime, with Giuliani under the Trump regime, they were pumping in all of this money from the Ukraine to buy out Senate seats in Nevada in order to monopolize the system. And so that was caught and was like a gnarly thing for all of us. We all, quit as consultants because we were like, that's not
Wow.
ethical or morally cool. But that kind of thing goes on constantly in different areas. So I think that one of the bigger political ploys is being able to govern all this stuff, not just like the cannabis itself and the taxation and the money and the monetary and all those types of things, but the actual political rebuke and risk litigation that comes in on having like a sublet of motivation, like in Cuba, like if you have somebody that's working in the cocaine industry, you don't want them obviously in a political office, or they're going to manipulate the entire chain of command so that there's going to be more trafficking of cocaine. So in the same way, I think that this shutdown in the political way is, even in 18, has now 8 years later set us up to where we are now. So like the political seats are
Bought and paid.
orchestrated.
Mhm.
Everything is like very it's very much a puppet act. And so it's hard seeing starting on June 29th in Arlington, there was the beginning of federal rescheduling. And so a lot of people can't ingest or know that cannabis is presently being rescheduled currently. And it is probably one of the hardest points in my life to digest that, you go through all these mental perspectives where you're like, did I just waste my whole fucking life doing this so that big pharma still can take over? Like, was the whole advocacy,
Right.
was it just all complete bullshit? Did all my elders, like, did my partner get indicted and put in prison for 5 years for growing weed? Like, we went through all of this and now there's no reprobation and we're just willingly handing it to it. And the reason is because our people weren't educated on what medical really meant. To us, we see it, we wanted to put freedom like with the word medical, and it's just not true. Like the second that pill bottles and stuff like come into play, we have no control. And so I think that all the years that I've fought for medical marijuana, it was without the understanding of what that meant. It meant standardized system that is owned by the oligarchy, that you buy and pay for PhDs and bullshit fucking degrees that can give you, they even have a Hippocratic oath. Like, tell me that it's a Hippocratic oath. Doesn't that mean a hypocrisy? Like it's a Hippocratic oath. And so those systems now being able to govern us is sad, because it's not medical, it's not plant freedom. It's just the oligarchy doing what the hell they want in order to make money off of us, and rob the education of the future. Because in the end, nobody's going to know what the plant looks like. Everybody's going to vape off a pen and be all like, "Oh yeah, this is ganja," and it's like fully not ganja. It's a chemical extract of what they'll be creating. So I'm really frustrated and worried for the future of cannabis in those ways, for sure.
Yeah.
Shit's great.
Yeah.
So I want to respond to something that you said. You said, has everything that we've done, is it a waste of time? And my response to that is no. That even if we don't win, that doesn't mean all the work we did was a waste of time,
Right.
And maybe we don't win this battle, doesn't mean we don't have opportunity in the future. I think it's pretty depressing what's going on.
It is.
Um, I don't even have a word for it beyond depressing, or maybe it's infuriating and it's angering
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, there's a ton of
Mhm.
adjectives attached to it, right? We could go on
Right.
the fuck.
But the thing is that the biggest, or not the biggest, but an issue that I see is that there's not enough attention being brought to it.
And
Okay,
it's
like
part of the freaking game. They
yeah,
want
like
to have
Right.
everybody
why aren't
distracted.
we seeing this in the news? You know,
Right.
why
Well,
isn't it, like the cannabis industry, for instance, in California alone, it's got to be $1 billion industry,
It
if not, and so
is
like it's such a huge part of our life and community here that the fact that
right.
all this is happening and it's not on the news every day, what it's a sign is of like people that are in power are
Mhm.
are censoring us, or if they're not censoring
Mhm.
it, they're not putting the attention where it needs to be. And so I thank you for what you do and for you trying to like
Mhm.
bring attention to the subject here today. I mean, I'm not very confident that we will succeed.
I'm
And I
ready.
think what might have to happen is that things are going to have to get worse before
Before
they get better, you know? But that doesn't mean that you wasted your time and that we've wasted our time. It just means that we have this hurdle that we have to overcome.
But
Well,
I
were you meaning like all that time spent was just a big pharma to come and follow the path that you already paved,
well
to then use your testimony even about medicinal cannabis to go back to the feds and say, see, here are
exactly.
all of these people over all of this history
Everybody
that
wanted
have
it.
proven to us that cannabis is medicine. Here's all the proof from this legacy board. Now change the rules to benefit us only.
Well, unfortunately, what we have to do is actually go into the. We got to go as far back as possible and go into the Declaration of Independence, right? The
Yeah.
Constitution gives us a right to farm. The Constitution gives us a right that we're supposed to follow the Constitution above and beyond all else, above all laws, no
Right.
matter
Well, and
what
the
constitutional
health,
law.
health and liberty.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
the pursuit of happiness.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
how
And
does the Constitution give us these
Mhm.
rights? What part of the Constitution?
well, our right to farm,
Well,
our
it's
right to
Article
pursue.
One.
Article 1
And
It's
says that you have the right to farm.
no,
I
that's
don't know
like
about agriculture. It says you have the right to
I think it's like eight or
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right, but they
and
don't.
it expresses that there
Let me look
is,
it up.
if you read it, and I encourage everybody that lives in America or wants to be a part of America, because I work internationally, I speak about this a lot of times. The reason I don't live everywhere else many for over a couple of years is because I love the Constitution. I love the Declaration. I want the right to bear arms. I want the right to farm. Like the basis of the fact that we have due process, we have criminal process, we have a right to be heard. All these things don't exist in other worlds, and we have to really like, we do have a system that if we were to stand up, we do have a voice. But so many people are sedated by processed foods, by mental illness, by alcoholism and addiction, and a thousand other fucking distractions that nobody can see. Like the concept in front of us is that they are going to remove the education needed for freedom. They're going to indoctrinate us the way that they need us in order to keep us as modern day slaves. That mental slavery is freaking everything. Is it to not have the freedom to know that meadowsweet is the ibuprofen plant, an aspirin plant, birch tree,
Hmm.
to have that information taken away as herbal knowledge, that's the only thing they really want, because then they can sell you anything. And so, and just the second we're all so passive as to believe their asses, then the hardest thing is realizing that not only did I supported big pharma on accident every single time. Now using AI, especially in this age of AI, they've been able to scrape every single thing, data mine every single thing in order to enforce their rhetoric of having it needing to meet standardization systems for health and human safety, like all these different things that we didn't want. We just wanted the freedom to grow, the freedom to
Right.
be entrepreneurs in a diverse settlement. But we didn't understand that that shit doesn't exist in the real world. We're all living in a straight up dream fantasy thinking, oh, we can still come. No, that's not how it works. They get to be the bosses now, and they're going to force us all to sign up with the DEA. And that's what the medical, they have
Or
the
be outlaws.
yeah, I mean, because if you're the only way with the way the process is going, as you stated, Sarah, is that
Hmm.
they're going to reschedule alternative cannabinoids to Schedule 1. And so that means all the hemp derivatives that are large scale, able to be isolated, isomerized, or blasted off in some form in order to create alternative chemicals that can cause euphoric effects like D8 and other things like that. So they're
Hmm.
rescheduling that to Schedule 1. And so that's
Yeah.
instead of being a free nation, it's going to be Schedule 1. And then they're putting, like you said, those medical aspects will be the only thing that is legalized. And so
That'll be
there'll be
Schedule 3.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
and then Schedule 1 will continue for those that are not signing up with the DEA. And so if you're not a legitimate small pharma, because that's what we become when we sign up with the DEA. DEA is, you are small pharma, you will be controlled by the FDA, and the strictness, and I mean, we know how corrupt the systems is. I mean, if Frito-Lay's can buy an organic label, we know that pretty much the entire system is like massively bought and paid for. So where is our community trust? Where's our social trust lie once that shit comes up? So it's a real hard topic for me because I'm looking at it. I've read the FDA manual to become an FDA handler. I am CGMP certified. I have been EU CGMP certified through Australia. And so when I look at the standardization system, I mean, it's great that entrepreneurs, you were supposed to be able to sustain for 2 years, even if you got a t-shirt company. And if you can't do that, then fuck you, you can't be an entrepreneur. But the systems that they have in place will literally take the last of everybody out. Because who can afford a full stainless steel facility without
Right.
predatory contracts from bastard-ass investors that are looking for you to fail? And they want you
Right.
to fail so they can assume control. So it's, the whole thing's such a deep concept, and the construct makes me sick right now. And we all, every time we talk about medical marijuana, we have just enforced the opposition. We've enforced their story instead of what we want is freedom of the plant. And I want it to be treated like alcohol. I no longer believe in medical marijuana. I want cannabis to be treated like alcohol. I want it to be free within state lines. I want to be able to create it and brew it in my own
Right.
facility without USDA coverage. So we just didn't know. We didn't know. It's so sad.
We got a couple of comments in the chat that I wish I could share, but it's not working for me.
Well,
But
speaking
What is it?
somebody says, when freedom becomes outlawed, only outlaws will be free.
free. Yes, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
And that is a blessing right there. It's real.
And then
Hmm.
I quoted Bob Marley saying, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but
Mhm.
ourselves can free our mind.
Yes, it's the real shit right there. That's real, King.
Yeah. Trying to free the weed, though, for the people that need, you know.
But that's
Um,
the catch and effect, though, because they're like, well, we are freeing it. We will be able to. If you sign up with the DEA, then the veterans will get to have it. That, maybe the insurances will pick it up, but the insurance companies will only buy the ones that are created by small pharma, that are controlled by the DEA, that are governed by the FDA, that are go to all these. It's impossible for a small entrepreneur to even have stake anymore without becoming and selling out our entire culture to what's coming. And it's
right.
Did she
Yeah.
freeze up on us?
Huh?
I think she froze on us.
Uh-oh.
So it happens when you're in Humboldt County.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not.
AC's been plugged in, and she's one of those people that's really been trying to circumnavigate any and all avenues to be part of this, coming of the cannabis era, where everything from what she was saying, she's applied for those licenses, has set up this international consulting company. And that's why I thought it was so important to try to get her in here today, even though she is way out in the boondocks. Hopefully, she'll be able to rejoin us here in a minute. Because what we have going on right now is a giant problem for home growers, for small business owners, for people in the hemp industry that don't want to get taken over by big alcohol. Um, One of the ladies that I follow on Instagram is actually a hemp beverage producer, but also was touting the irony of now we're going to legalize hemp beverages, but if you have hemp flour or if you have hemp gummies, all of those things are still too dangerous. So it's a flagrant corporate takeover of the hemp beverage industry. It's obvious that big alcohol sees the money to be made from hemp beverages, even though they're less than 10% of the hemp market in America. And now they're going to get a pass carved out, and then everyone else is not going to have any way to market their hemp products because those are going to be too dangerous, from the people who make hard lemonades and leave them on the bottom shelves at grocery stores. So, there's a lot of just hypocrisy going on, and it comes from a place of greed and money, which is opposite of where we come from. As a community, we come from a place of love and of wanting to help one another and share this plant and the real plant medicine that it provides for people. And that's the culture that we're at risk of losing if we can't use our herb, our plant. AC was talking about, how what kind of solutions could be made, or is this all at waste? Gabby, and I appreciate what you were saying, that it's not a waste of time. And I think that one thing that we all need to know and that we need to be considering is that, lawmakers are doing this. We are in America. Laws can be changed. So but it requires community involvement. It requires more than the same 50 people showing up at our state house here in Ohio. It needs like 500, 5,000 people calling. Because if we don't take this time right now to, express our concerns about losing our potential for home grow or for recreational cannabis, we have a real risk of that being another time of prohibition coming that we will have to outgrow as a nation. We're really moving backwards on a lot of social issues right now, and cannabis is one of them. So,
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand how we can make this plant illegal, or how this plant can remain to be illegal, and the fact that they would take away people's rights to home grow. I just think it's not only it should be criminal, and it's so obvious that the intention is just a money grab. Like,
right.
it's
Yeah, it
it's not
really is.
it's not that they don't want us to grow because there's something wrong with it. They don't want us to grow because they want to pocket all the money themselves, and that's just fucked up. I have this quote, and I played it last week on the show, but I think it's, considering what we're saying now, it's applicable. So I'm gonna play it again for those of you that didn't hear it. But here we go. Oops. What's happening?
Yeah, I don't know.
these people want to do so much good for everyone who call themselves governments and this and that. Why them say you must not use the herb?
Yeah, so if these politicians are trying to be so good and do so much for us, why are they saying that we shouldn't have this plant? This is the question
Right.
this is the question that we need to ask. And I think I'm grateful for AC Moon and for the other people that are fighting for everyone's rights, because if someone doesn't do that, we will end up in another type of prohibition. Yes, maybe we can go to a store and buy the weed, but like can't grow it yourself. Well, I mean, that's just
Right.
ridiculous. So,
Right.
yeah,
And I think what she's saying is eventually you won't be able to go in there and even buy the weed. You'll be buying some sort of
extract.
pharmaceutical product.
Right.
Like a already packaged vape or let's see,
Some
where are you? There you are. Yeah, some
synthetic
sort of
cannabis.
synthetic cannabinoid.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we are fighting to stop that from happening.
I'm
Man,
trying to message her and see
this is
what's
what
going on,
happens
if I
when
can help her get back in.
this is what happens when we try to go live with someone that's in
In Humboldt.
Humboldt
Yeah.
County. Could have some
Yeah, but we haven't even talked about
technical
any of
issues.
her inventions or anything. I'm hoping we can get her back in here. Okay, she says, let's see, can you get back?
Tell her to
Oh,
just
she was wondering, do I let it upload? But she should try to
yeah,
rejoin.
she has to allow it to upload, but she can still rejoin. So,
Cool,
um,
maybe we'll get her back here.
Sorry about.
Doctor
Yay,
I'm sorry.
there
I
she
don't know what
is.
happened.
Doctor E. Balone says, "I got a
Yay,
medical
had to,
license. I can grow. For now, you do. You know, if you don't register with the DEA, they might take those rights away from you. So
yeah,
that's what we're talking about here.
So what I was saying, so sorry for the interruption. That was bad, and I didn't know if to let it
hmm
upload or what because it blinked out.
right. Yeah, and I
Hopefully,
realized that my phone was on Do Not Disturb, so it took me a minute to get your message.
well, hopefully
Uh,
you'll be able to get this content, and I apologize if that's in. So back in the day, a lot of people don't understand, and the new revolution definitely doesn't understand what the Cole memo was. And the Cole memo was simply a memo that was held, in Congress as saying that states were not going to get messed with by the feds. Basically, the feds would respect state law as stater approved voting is controlling that conversation. Unfortunately, recently the Cole memo was removed from Congress's spectral, delegative housing. And so without the Cole memo protecting, individual state rights, and they very easily can blanket these laws into, as we were speaking about before, recreational, medical, and then commandeering all the medical programs throughout the United States because state law will no longer be holding precedence because of the Cole memo being vacant. So that part in itself is, we've had all of our rights pretty much stripped from us in some form or another, in the way of just having the freedom to have state, decided laws, state decided programs.
right.
We are supposed to be the voters are the ones that are supposed to be like making these decisions. And so unfortunately, I hate politics, but it's something you got to pay attention to if you really do want to be free. I
Yep.
mean, because it's everybody's so busy working out on the farms and doing their thing. We don't get an opportunity. I'm barely sleeping trying to pay attention to some of this stuff. You really got to, not just that. It's weird because you can realize that something like trading oil, how will that affect cannabis? How will that affect well, there's a lot of ways it could, because oil, obviously governs transportation. They're also owned by the same people that own big pharma. And so the more money that the oil companies have, the more that big pharma has power, because it's one and the same investors, it's one of the same owners and oligarchies that run those, the original 14 families. So
Mhm.
with that in mind, you also have to think about, like, okay, well, what else does it create? It creates plastic. What has cannabis become? An extremely plastic positive industry. Like, we're growing more fucking plastic than we are
Yeah,
ganja.
it's terrible.
And I don't even understand how it became like this. And all of us that have worked on organic regenerative farming kind of feel that it's a little blasphemous. But that's where it's going to
Yeah.
be going with this standardization system of, you know, medical cannabis and those governing us. Yeah, it's all going to be plastic and stainless steel. There ain't no love in that earth, and that's kind of sad. We need it. It's the bracing curative for the affliction of our times. That's like positive energy that we got to keep advocating for this change. You know, keep
Yeah.
on advocating, you guys.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
When there's major outrage, when enough people call, when enough people take action, then politicians move. A good example of that would be New York's governor just signing into law the pause on data centers based on all of the pushback from voters, right?
Oh,
That's
it's huge.
another like just giant conglomerate taking over our lives. But that, you know, you can just imagine how many people must have called to have her make that, um, you know, to put that protocol in place. So I agree with
But
you, and I know that you're super active and you're paying attention, and we just, you know, get being here and being able to inform the others um, is highly important, but also that they take this information and take action is
yeah,
super important, you
we
know.
need to get mad. I mean, it's wonderful that we can smoke ganja and stay iron and super sedated. But just like I've experienced on the island hundreds and hundreds of times, you know, sedated isn't, you know, we don't want to be that. That's, they've done that as colonialists, like sedating and controlling the rhetoric for too long. So we got to get mad, you know. If it takes putting down
Hmm.
the for a second to get pissed, then get freaking pissed somehow. I don't care how you do it, but
Yeah,
get
and
high.
more than getting mad, we have to get mad and do something about it, right?
Right. We have to make the phone
Because
call, take the
if we
5 minutes,
all just
write
get
the
mad,
email.
yeah, if we all get
Hmm.
mad and just complain to each other, then that doesn't help.
Well, what I'm
Right.
really, you know, kind of mad about is the fact that, I mean, not mad because I'm really not an angry person by nature. I smoke far too much ganja, but um, I have a lot of friends that are in like in the upper echelon of influencers, of people that have and command a lot of attention publicly. And you know, more often than not, you're scrolling through just a shit ton of ads. You're walking through Instagram or even you know, YouTube anymore. It's like half of it is just pandering towards a public of which they wish to commerce off of. Like true
Right.
advocacy is kind of out the door. We're talking about fucking weed because we want to sell weed. We're talking about this because we want to sell that. We need this because we. It's just like it's a real transactional thing that used to be something that was really heartfelt. Like I really want to be sitting there smoking a joint with you guys, just having a conversation. I don't want to be
Hmm.
governed by meta and 1,000 miles between us. And so I just we gotta find ways to like convince people that okay, it's great you want to sell your weed. It's great that you want everybody to promote your products. It's everybody, you want your strain, your breed, everything that's specific to you so that you can have that ego, that hype, that exposure and get the money from it because we want this to feel like a free commerce still. But if you do not stand up and fight and do not have your
Right.
voice heard, if you do not use your platforms to talk about the real shit, then you're going
Right.
to be more criminal than you ever were on the streets. You're going to be way more criminal than you ever were on the streets because now we're going to be fighting big pharma. And how much money does
Right.
it take to win a case against big pharma? It just doesn't happen. Nobody wins against big pharma. They got too much money.
Right.
And them being able to bastardize our genetics and be able to take it to, because what they do is they develop syncans, right? Syncans are synthetic cannabinoids. So I've been fighting really hard for you know, the chemovaric testing of cannabis sativa strains, so that the population at large can realize that all cannabis is one plant by law. by taxonomic nomenclature, all cannabis is cannabis sativa. Cannabis indica is a form of cannabis sativa. Cannabis ruderalis is a form of cannabis sativa. And cannabis mutants have no fucking name. They're all a form of cannabis sativa. I do not particularly agree on this, not just as somebody with a degree in horticulture that has studied botany for over 27 years, but somebody that has, like, I can see, and I've worked so hard in adapting the morphology of plants, I've really tested it. So I'm going to take something that's a pure, quote unquote, what we know in society as indica. I myself see it as a different plant than that is sativa, one that is long linear leaf, handles tropics, high UV rate, doesn't produce anthocyanin bearing cells, all that kind of stuff. I believe it should be separated. I think one of the things that they've been able to do in worldwide dominance is take the education apart of what even taxonomic nomenclature is. And so for all of you out there that might see this now, today, tomorrow, in the future, or went on a time machine and watch this shit in the past, taxonomic nomenclature is the Latin binomial words that we express the title of anything. Homo sapien, there we go, get it out, AC. That's the taxonomic nomenclature for humans. That is the Latin binomial nomenclature, right? These are the Latin words that describe who we are. We are homogeneous, right? So within that, we have the whole construct of family, genus, kingdom, right? It's family, genus, kingdom, class, order, genus, right? So cannabis is a rose, right? It is from the family of Rosales. It is it's actually called a Eucaliid Rosales, which means it is a ropey or fibrous terms, right? So when you're looking at that, we're from the family of Cannabaceae, right? Which we know hops also lives in that family. But as for cannabis, they say that all cannabis is just one plant. I don't agree. I specifically have been trying to create a congress to use the chemovaric testing to not just use computers to overlay genomic alleles from different cultivars, to not be able to pursue being able to identify the genome that causes light sensitivity, right? Because obviously a ruderalis that is an autoflower and is only triggered through age and is unable to be cloned, and you cannot clone this autoflower. Like, why is that the same as a cannabis sativa that could possibly be hemp and non-cannabinoid bearing, or could be long linear leaves and is subjective to the light cycle? Like, why is that the same freaking plant? It's not, to me. And so what I've contended to the world for several years now is using chemovaric testing and going to the Society of Nomenclature. Taxonomic nomenclature meets every 3 years globally in order to decide new taxonomic societies, right? And so then we all create the INTP number, right? It's a code, a nomenclature code. And under that nomenclature code, I believe that cannabis should have 3, if not 4, distinct and separate species, being 1 cannabis sativa, which is cannabis sativa hemp, non-cannabinoid bearing, right? And when we say cannabis sativa is only Latin for the word cultivated. It does not mean anything else. And we're really looking at these words. We're supposed to be able to talk to a botanist on the other side of the world and say, listen, this is a Sequoia sempervirens, or this is a Sequoia giganteum, or a Sequoia californicum. Each of those Latin binomial nomenclatures, they're specific to that strain. California born Sequoia, which is a redwood, or a gigantic Sequoia, which is in humble, In cannabis, we don't have that. And so what they're doing in big pharma is they're taking that, of which we are not paying attention to because nobody has the education in the Cannabis Society to do this. And they're just pigeonholing all of it and then draining out all of the chemovaric information. By now in our society, if we had research, we'd be able to go, and please argue with this in the chat. I need you guys to argue with me about this in the chat because I need all the different perspectives I can get in order to get a really wide open point of view. Do you agree that most cannabis sativas are going to be the gases in the chem terpene profiles? And do you believe that if it's
Yeah,
anthocyanin
skunks.
bearing, those
Yeah.
that would be in cannabis indica, are those going to be, we can premeditate that's going to be a sweet, it's going to be an earth. It has a carnation formed flower that forms into a flower and then expands, while the sativa versions have small little balls, and those small little balls called growth nodules, they build upon themselves in order to create like a cerealis flower. Two different flowers, two different species, they grow differently, they work differently, and all they're doing is separating and data mining all this information out of our society, just so that they can predict that this plant's going to have this terpene profile and this set of cannabinoid expressions if grown this way, so that they can create a standardized system to have all of these products in a compliance, system that we cannot, be a part of, essentially.
Right. So what you're saying is like, because the wording, they're grouping all of these different varieties of cannabis into one wording, then it's setting us up to where they'll exclude everything that they don't want to use from their Schedule 3. Is that like, so where you're talking about the place where where they're defining the plants? I'm looking at what people are saying in the chat, and they're kind of harping on what sativa means, and I think they're like the what you're saying about why this is important is not getting out there as much. You know what I mean? I think she might be frozen again. Oh,
Well, while she's frozen, I'll say I I think the terms sativa and indica are widely misused, particularly today when things have been so hybridized.
mm-hmm.
But I think a bigger discussion is the different effects that you get from the narrow leaf and wide leaf varieties. And we're actually going to do an Ask Me or Ask Us Anything, hopefully next week, with Dave Budgilero. And he's an
Cool.
expert on the narrow leaf stuff, the long flowering plants. And so next week, everybody, be looking out for us. And we will be doing a talk on the long flowering narrow leaf plants. And if you have any questions, you should DM them to me on Instagram at the Craft Growers Network. And we will start off by.
They don't want me talking about this stuff. They're just going to keep
No,
blanking me out.
keep,
I'm getting like banned in a real way. I get banned on
keep
IG.
censoring you.
Every time I'm censored. I don't know. I was followed by the FBI for a great many years, but I thought that was over 10 years ago. And those assholes. Anyways, yeah, let's back up from the conversation. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so backing up, like, so you're talking about this group that decides these definition meets every 3 years, right? It's an international group.
Yes.
And you're thinking that if they would redefine cannabis, not just as sativa, but separate it out into its different actual plants or offshoots of that variety of plant, that it would be a more clearly defined terminology, and that would be beneficial to all of the people trying to use the plant for different.
I absolutely, I do. All of us that have done breeding or work in genetics or just have worked with the plant, like just the understanding of, okay, so cannabis indica, right? The word indica in Latin just means from India. And we know, like, as people that have worked with plants, that not all cannabis genetics that are broadleaf, lower anthocyanin bearing, colder climate plants are not all from India. It's just not true. And so really kind of looking at the fact that not only in an education or curriculum forum, we need these Latin expressions to be linear so that we have broad understanding in a global way using these Latin terminologies, which is binomial nomenclature that has been in process since the beginning of time as an expression, but that it needs to be validated so in Europe, the scientists have started using autoflower ruderalis, right? The word ruderalis means wild, hempy, ropey, right? It means
Mm-hmm.
fibrous in Latin. And so to us, for me, a logical explanation or binomial nomenclature that would express what that cultivar is
Yikes.
Uh-oh. Man. I
I
don't think
can't
she
even
knows
pick
we
up.
can't hear her. I
I
can't
can't
hear
even.
her.
I can't even pick up on what she's saying just because
Yeah.
it's beyond my.
Right. Well, what she's talking about is this group that meets every 3 years, and she thinks that people should lobby them to change the definition of cannabis to break it down into its separate things. And she mentioned like the sequoia tree, right? And
Mhm.
how you have like the giant sequoia, the not giant sequoia, or the, I don't know, different third one that she mentioned. And where if they would break down cannabis into the actual biological terminology, that it would be more useful for people in science and in like testing
can
for
you hear me again?
or in defining the plant across continents, right? Yeah, we lost your voice and then we lost you. But yeah, so getting through that, like, so when do they meet again, or what is the game plan for trying to have some action to change that?
Uh,
Man,
We might have to.
it is high science, dude. It's not like something that most people are thinking about, but it is also, I think maybe if this was redefined on the global scale, that then we would have a different potential for classifications in the regulatory system. I think that's where she's going with this. Um, but it's in depth, because this is like a council that decides like the meaning of biological terms that meets every now and again that could
they met last year,
get
I
like
believe, in China, and I think
Now she's.
yeah, see, they meet there. It's an international board that meets that she is recommending that they would change the verbiage of how cannabis is defined. And then it would have to be changed in these regulatory systems. Is that correct?
yes, absolutely. So what is all these large ag systems are created in order to dominate agricultural areas. So the new rice that in the Chinese province to create laws. So backing up for a second, in Europe, they started using the breeders and those scientists working with cannabis that is ruderalis or autoflower. They started to use the word
Yeah.
spontanea. Spontanea is Latin for spontaneously flowering.
Spontaneous, yeah.
And so
Huh.
so I felt like that was a real like it made more sense instead of ruderalis, which okay, yeah, it means ropey, but to have it say this is a spontaneous flowering form of cultivar, that it just makes more sense on a Latin binomial nomenclature form, and so we can know what to expect if we have a spontanea in our yard. It's going to be a spontaneously flowering form. We know that indica is going to be all the things that indica are, and they're very different than sativa. And no matter how many times I take an indica genetic to the Caribbean, to the tropics, it doesn't turn into a sativa. It doesn't
Yeah.
morph after years and become a sativa. It
Right.
doesn't get longer linear leaves and have more, like it doesn't become that. It's an indica forever. So I feel if we separate that it'll give a more power and understanding to politics, because if
For
we're
the
talking about
genetic
hemp,
mapping.
yeah, if it's hemp, then it's hemp. It's non-cannabinoid bearing. If it's
Right.
indica, it's going to be all cannabinoid bearing that is higher delta 9 and THCV. CBD is going to be and longer winded extracts. All of the science that they already know, we just don't have
Right.
access to.
So
because they
instead of them lumping all of it under one title, which allows them to control all of it as a harmful substance,
Mhm.
we would be able to more clearly define the different varieties of cannabis.
Yes, and then poignantly be able to say, okay, as a breeder, we know in this recipe that indica creates these type of terpene profiles and these type of chemovaric testing profiles. Again, knowing that that's a CBD dominant is we know that that's going to be a hemp cultivar. It's going to be less than
Mm-hmm.
0.03% of THC delta 9. Those things need to be separated, and if we continue to like battle this like, oh, just let us smoke fucking weed thing, then I think that the larger spectrum of education and information, that they're really playing ball. They're working with scientists, doctors, and the most brilliant minds on the planet in order to figure out how to commandeer this into some sort of
Right.
syntax syncan manipulative. They have far before my time, and I'm sure that they will continue so far after my time. But we need people to understand what that means. Like, what is it? What, it's not just cannabis is this, this is all science, and we're just using the words because they're the words. But you got to understand the science behind it too, in some
Yeah.
form. I think at this time, yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So
It's gotten crazy.
27 years, huh? You've been
I
cultivating?
have I have. I've been growing for 27 years. I'm actually on my 28th year now. And that's like not just passive growing, which a couple little plants like in the yard when I was 14, 15, or second generation when the plants were next to the tomato. But
Mm-hmm.
I started my first business at the turn of the century, which is the year 2000. I was just a kid. I started growing mad amounts of Afghani goo, which I coveted goo for well over 20 years as my prime um, perfection, as my prime cannabinoid content. And then I would make my own hash and I would create my own edibles. And I founded Harvest Moon Munchie Company and created my first dispensary and edibles company by 2002 in order to help cancer patients. My mom had cancer. My family died from cancer and lots of different toxic addictions. My dad was a Vietnam vet that had orange poisoning from Vietnam. And
Yeah.
the alcohol and drug addictions that come from that, I just thought I can save him with this plant. Hippies and the rainbow gatherers brought me forward and were like, here, sleep underneath this plant and dream of days. And God would have never known that I'd end up having the freaking journey I have because of them sticking me into that goddamn plant and telling me to pick some fucking leaves. I tell you what, it's like, you
Yeah.
guys killed me in a way, that. It sucked up my whole damn life. I've never been married because I'm married to the games. So now I'm considering filing for divorce just because I'm like, wow, this dude is seriously not taking care of me anymore. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
messed up.
hear you. I hear you there.
It's wild though.
Yeah. So you've been in Humboldt this whole time before you founded Indica Innovations, started reaching
Nope.
out and doing consulting work around the world, where all of you have been doing consulting work at.
No, actually, my first businesses were started. I have always been a dual citizen and a traveler. So I own businesses and have a place in San Francisco. That's how Harvest Moon started. But I owned property up in Nevada County, which is above Grass Valley, California. Grass Valley,
Mm-hmm.
California is one of the most echelons, just the oasis of cannabis growing. I grow way better weed in the Sierra Nevadas than I do on the coast, which is Humboldt. And then I also owned property in Humboldt and Trinity County, which that is the Emerald Triangle, which is the coast. And so I've
Mm-hmm.
always, through my whole life, driven 3 hours back and forth to make sure, because different cultivars grow best in different spaces. So my 40-acre farm is in a space called the North San Juan Ridge above Grass Valley, California. I have 4,000 feet elevation and a nice, wonderful 75% humidity above the Yuba River. And then where I live the rest of the time, which is most of the time, is in southern Humboldt, where we have similar climate but way too much moisture. So we get a lot of attacks by botrytis, bacteria, and a lot of just molds and Humboldt has to battle constantly because we have such a high moisture content. And then I live part of the year in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where I've been helping the very first licensed farmers in the USVI get their licenses. We just got our first manufacturing licenses, very first 2 legal farmers, and our very first 14 farmers we have legalized. Yes. And so I've been working on
Awesome.
doing the program and helping build the curriculum for the University of Virgin Islands, and speaking to farmers, teaching them metric cannabinoid testing, how to clone, how to really perpetuate propagations, and to build the entire business platform that they're looking for legal cannabis without getting whitewashed. No whitewashing, no washing, especially in the Caribbean. So I circle the planet once a year. And
Awesome.
so, but back and forth from Humboldt pretty much once a week, and so that's it's just got to be done. There's too many things to do in too many parts of the world. Hopefully, I'll get to settle down with my beautiful Prince Charming soon. But for now, the lady in waiting keeps growing.
Yeah. So you were talking about working on genome mapping of varieties of cannabis. So and you casually mentioned your horticulture degree. Tell me a little bit more about how this genetic mapping of people's individual cannabis varieties works, and if it works, and how you've been learning about it. Or
Well, I guess I'll have to back up a little bit from there. I got a little too busy, too bodied, working, growing fat in Trinity Pines, and then out in the Humboldt and Soham Myers Flat area, and then out in Nevada County. And I was federally rated in 2009. And so, unfortunately, it caused me to have to buy more property in Trinity and kind of go a little deeper into the Emerald Triangle. But what it did do for me is those moments of fear are often like the moments of like just amazing rebirth. And I realized
yeah,
that this shit's going downhill and the choppers aren't going to stop and the shit's just not going to stop. And it took a lot of money and decided to start inventing. And then I started inventing crop tops greenhouses, and I invented a simple portable greenhouse in order to protect plants that were outside my light depths, and have for permaculture and such. Started my journey on learning intellectual property and what that really meant. At the time, I knew about plant breeding just from college. I learned about provisional patents and things like that. But understanding the world view of how to protect your breeding rights and how to, basically invent or discover something and get to name it and have that thing going on.
mhm.
So as I continued forward, I started working. Was rated again 12 and 13 by the 3-lettered people in blue. And after investing a good $250,000 into my extremely expensive education on IP, I realized that's very applicable to this genetic that I've been holding for 20 years. I kept a mother of goo for over 19 years and
Nice.
studied it. Wanted to see how the plant reverted to its prehistoric size, its prehistoric trichome production, its ability to produce anthocyanins, if it became more mold resistant, or became what back then everybody used to say, hey, if you clone a clone a clone, then you're washing out your genetics. But I just
Right.
realized it's just complete bullshit. Like half the stuff
Yeah,
that we talk
no.
about in culture is
Yeah, I take a
bullshit.
new lemon clone pretty regularly. I don't believe that's true at all,
No, that strain
Uh,
out, drain out isn't real in my sphere. So
yeah.
I'm starting to learn and study about intellectual property because obviously I went from federally rated to federally patented in 5 years, and so that was a real big thing. From going to being indicted, giving up everything, having to sign over my entire life to walk into the federal building in Sacramento and turn my life over to being able to have a plaque on my wall that says you're federally patented was like my personal joke during that whole time. And then I got the first cannabis leaf trademark that was federally trademarked, because we can't use
Wow.
cannabis imagery because it was for my greenhouse product. So both of those things made me like, yeah, I felt like I could get a new step in, and I started working in the mainstream world to learn IP. So it's paying tens of thousands of dollars into IP lawyers, and then I ended up taking a really large course in with the inventor of Teddy Ruxpin and the inventor of laser tag, and learning licensing and inventing and all of the back end of intellectual property and how it applies. And then it became on an advisory board member to the USPTO office with National Inventors Association in order to affluence.
So, oh man, we lost her again. We lost your audio.
And their video's frozen.
Uh-oh.
You know, I was gonna ask her. I don't know what I think about patenting cannabis.
Well,
You know,
I didn't know that she was actually talking about, it sounds like she was talking about patenting her greenhouse and not actually a strain of cannabis.
well, but I think she was talking about
Cannabis.
both.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, patenting, a product, a greenhouse that you create, um,
Yeah.
is is reasonable. But like Monsanto and all these big companies, we don't want them patenting the plant. And when we
Right.
allow this type of
Or
stuff,
like people
you know,
patent roses and stuff, And
yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I'm not as concerned about people patenting roses because they're not our medicine, but
Yeah.
and I just wonder how, like, to patent something, you need to create something completely new and unique. Like making a cross of two plants, I don't think should be something that you can just patent,
Yeah.
because you didn't have, the original material is,
Yeah. I mean, it's a gift from creator at the end of the day, you
yeah.
know, all of it is. Roses too.
I'm
So
sad that we're having such problems with.
I know, me too.
This is what happens when we try to get a great guest on from Humboldt. I appreciate the people that have continued to listen and stick through it. If you have any questions for us or any questions for AC
Right.
Moon, please feel free to put some questions in the chat, which now I am able to see the chat and post the chat.
If you guys out there, if you're home growers, we need to come up with some sort of national plan of outreach, I think, to our politicians at a state level or those that represent us in Congress, to, maybe if you like to use hemp products that are not just hemp beverages, or you want to be able to have clones and seeds and have them um, classified as hemp because they are hemp with less than 0.3% THC, then we need to get on the horn with our elected officials and let them know that we want our rights protected as this rescheduling takes place, and that we want access to everything that we need for our home grow, which would be seeds, which would be our freedom to share our clones, our freedom to share our plants, is something that we need to be addressing right now. We cannot wait until later, because come November, all of this is going to be downhill. So
I
our
have a
time is
question.
Yep.
now.
I have a question for AC Moon. So I don't understand the logic behind making seeds Schedule 1 and making the flour and other products Schedule 3, because in the end, Schedule 3 still puts all these restrictions on us that most of us can't, like, we're not going to go get
Right.
licensed with the DEA, right? So
Right.
it's confusing to me why they wouldn't make it Schedule 3, considering we still would have to run through all those loopholes. And how do you how do you make, you know yeah,
Someone just put in the chat that Humboldt had banned growing hemp a while ago. I don't know about that. Gosh, girl.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with the internet. Even here, I'm losing my cookies. So I'm super sorry about that, you guys. And thank you all for being
Yeah.
patient, going into this conversation. with beautiful Gabby and Sarah Koya. I am sorry I keep blanking out, but such is the curse of the woods. So what I was
Yeah.
trying to say is the USPTO is that's a huge hitch because when we're looking back and we have cannabinoid specific profiles of cannabinoids already patented by the US government, and the fact that cannabis was originally patented as a commodity of war back in World War II. That's what created laws that made the entire world shut down from working with cannabis and kind of like handing that precedence to the American government. It's something that's gone on for a long time underneath the noses of Americans, but never, and global humans, without understanding what that meant. So a lot of the times, like I worked with Steve Cubby, and so when I moved in with Steve, he was going through Alzheimer's and things like that, and he was the very first patented cannabis breeder in the entire United States. He created the Equatorial Sunshine, and he bred that at his Hawaiian home, and then came back and patented it here in California. And he was granted his patent in 2016. He was also the presidential candidate.
Oh, we lost her again.
I wonder if we can get her without the video, if it would hold up, like if it would be better for the internet over there.
Yeah, we can ask her to just shut off the video and just do audio.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll get her better. Squishy Mirror is asking my thoughts on triploids. They're freaks. It's freak show right there. I think they are happening more regularly, but I don't know if it's from all the weird breeding. What do you think, Gabby, about triploids? Like polyploid type.
I don't have enough knowledge on it to speak, but what I'll say is that mutants is something that have been in cannabis forever, and let's say it's 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 100,000 plants that's a mutant. In the past, we would have just immediately thrown that genetic away, and now people are breeding with them. So
Right.
that freak
That's what's
show
happening.
plant that grows all the crazy leaves, people
Yeah.
are breeding with those, and when
Wow.
that happens, we're gonna get a lot more of it. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
Right.
you
Well,
know,
that freak show, it looks cool and all, but like the flavor is not there.
I mean, I think the freak show is cool if you're living in a prohibition state and you can have a
Right.
plant that doesn't look like cannabis. I think
There you
that's
go.
cool, but I'm just not sure. And Squishy says triploids are just seedless plants. I don't think they're seedless plants. I think they're plants that will not produce seeds, right?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
they definitely won't produce seeds, but it's because they're mutants that they're not producing the seeds.
right.
So, and then long term, if we keep breeding these kind of plants, we're gonna risk um, diluting our genetic pool.
I'm gonna move upstairs because they're
Yeah,
about.
I agree with Robert that that freak show is just not very good. It's mids, but it's fun to grow. Yeah, there you go.
Freak show is amazing though for so many other reasons that you don't even understand. Like Freak Show is an example of the fact of why we have CBD is found in white fur, and like all these cannabinoids found in different plants, and to have something that mutates, literally mutated from being a palmate structure to having like meridians and margins to being a pinnate structure, which is similar to a fern. It's completely changed its entire metabolic structure. It's made it so that it can survive in such high humidity that like what we can do with it that still have cannabinoids is understudied right now by far. It will be the prehistoric survivor when everything else has failed. I can promise you that.
Wow. Well, someone was asking me my thoughts on triploids. Which to me, oh dang it, got her. I didn't know if you could still hear me.
I
Which
hear
to
you.
me is like just a mutant, and it's like more and more mutated as we combine these mutant genetics with our like legacy genetics, where we
Yeah,
risk just kind of diluting the gene pool.
I might
I
step away for a minute. You guys keep going.
Okay, you do agree with that?
I totally agree with that. Uh,
Yeah.
we've lost Gabby. Sorry for all my interruptions. I feel so bad. I was like
Oh,
yelling.
lady.
I
Yeah.
was yelling. The tech at the library was like, "I'm sorry."
Oh,
Like,
man. Yeah.
I know.
Let's see. We've had a couple of people that had some tech advice. I was trying to find them
So
back in the chat, but
the triploid cannabis, it's really, it has like these specific three sets of chromosomes, which I don't necessarily agree with, just because I feel like
oh man.
it could and some genomes. I feel like it can be really manipulated in some ways. And so yeah, I mean, and the fact that it creates sterile flowers, like why would we want to create something to where okay, they're going to take all of their ability to have legal seed breeding out of the world. They're going to commerce off of all of our seed products. They're going to make it so that nobody has freedoms to produce seeds, and then they're going to
Right.
create a GMO product that doesn't create seeds. Therefore,
Right.
take the whole control out of the system. It's the worst thing to have a watermelon that has no seeds.
Right.
It is like it's a bastardization of nature, and
Yeah.
it's
My
really
my
sad.
elders say that's no watermelon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't have. You have to think about like as a female, like a sterile female is one that it has a different body of hormones. It can't produce. It doesn't have like the no longer has the life force of creation. And like what we really want in our plants is to have that cellular division, that high gibberellic acid, and that
Hmm.
natural nutrient density that's going to, you know, bring us some health factors for God's sakes. We could only pray.
Right.
And Gabby's back.
Hey,
I
Alexa.
there
moved
he is.
outside because they're gonna play the World Cup in there. But the good news is I get to smoke some hash out of my Dr. Dabber.
I'm super
Nice.
excited. I get
Can't
to eat
smoke in there.
watermelon. I have some Rastafari made a homemade ganja lip gloss that was made by a Rastafari friend of mine. And oddly
Nice.
enough, you can get you high if you put on this a ton.
Wow.
But it certainly helps in airports. Keeps my ass a little bit, at least my mouth, a little bit calmer.
Yeah.
It's
There you go.
just gonna be
Man,
crazy.
I might need
I'm
some of
sorry we've
that to keep
interrupted
my
our
mouth calm.
conversation so many times. So
Oh,
please
You arrive and you
please
see
revisit any topics that we have totally fucked up during these internet if you need me to. Ooh,
right.
fire!
Yeah. So Gabby was talking about like the flip side of genetic patenting would be the concern that then Monsanto ends up with all of our patents, or they
I mean,
patent all of these varieties before, people who actually created different genetic variations or took the time to source that and don't have the money to maybe or the knowledge to pursue a patent then get cut off by people like Monsanto. Like what could we do, or how would we prevent that if patenting
well,
is
you
a
do have
thing?
yeah, you do have to realize that like there's a lot of people put weight on patents, but really they're only worth like the amount of fucking toilet paper you can roll around your hand after you took a shit. They're they are marketing tactics, and marketing tactics that are built to be stolen. The only thing a patent is worth is the fact that you've already created enough marketing that somebody wants to steal that, or you've already created something that unique and that beneficial that somebody wants to steal it. So the back end of cannabis and other things is that if you put it out into the world or into commerce at all, you can't have it patented. It's no longer patentable if it's already in commerce. But you can't, but patents have no value unless somebody wants to steal your concept. So it's really a catch 22 where you're like, it doesn't have any freaking value. So what I really like to still steer our public people into is what we're going to call plant breeding rights. And we also have to discuss the fact that patents are only good in the United States. So the second you ship some seeds to Europe on that one flap ass, like somebody flapping their jaw, and you're like, no, check this out, it's in Spain. The internet again. Gosh forsaken internet.
Before we
please come
lose
back
you,
to
we
me.
were thinking maybe if you cut your
Am I back?
video off, it would
Hey,
maybe,
Eric, you came back.
we would maybe be able to like have you not lose you better if you cut your video off. I don't know.
I think it will cut off no matter what, and I apologize for that fully. And I would love to do another try with you at some point. I will be
There she goes. Man. Reconnecting. How about you, Gabby? What's going on outside? You're out there smoking your Dr. Dabber. Okay. Yeah, I don't think my camera is very clean today. This is my really terrible looking lemon G, but it tastes really good. Actually, I picked a couple of buds off of this. It wasn't quite this sparse earlier. But there she goes. You're muted. You're on mute. Huh?
I was gonna say, don't judge a book by its cover. That lemon G is fire.
Yeah. I
the
like it.
lemon is fire. The lemonine terpene is so good, but you know what's interesting? Like in Humco, when we're all like blasting out and doing it is the last terpene that can be extracted. It has that phenolic acid covering that makes it so that when you blast a ton of stuff, everything ends up, the last thing is lemon. It's like the very
Does it like
most,
is it overbearing?
it's
in the
not
flavor?
overbearing,
No.
but it's like you can have 15 different flavors. Like when I did the testing for like CannaFest or any of the judging things, you could have all of these different blast flavors or rosin flavors, and the one dominant terpene that will always come out is that limonene. Like
Yeah.
always, it's the last
Nice.
one to get fried out. It's the last one to get baked out, and it just
The same
holds
thing
long.
like
All of them.
when companies do CRC,
Uh-huh.
it removes all the terpenes. All
Yeah.
that's left is the limonene. You can
It's true.
like that shit always tastes super strong limonene.
It's true. It's a very, very dominant terpene. I think we're gonna see a lot of it in the future, to the point where I'm gonna be like, can we get some pinene or something in here on top of it, please? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, out here, and I'm assuming it's similar in Humboldt, is people hate these citrus terps and jack terps, and I love them.
I
you know,
love
but, like,
citrus terps.
like to me, Jack Herrera is some of the most like unique, beautiful cannabis ever.
Oh
But
yes.
like people smell it and they're like, nope, don't want it. They don't want to buy it. Like the only people that want it are like true connoisseurs that like, they really love and
Right.
appreciate different terpene profiles. I miss Jack Herrera. I haven't had good Jack in a really long time.
Oh
And
yes.
I think
It's got that like spicy back to it that reminds you of old haze, like the old original haze. Like my Tom Hill over in Mendo like still holds that original haze, and it's got that. It's like that spicy floral, like it's a spicy floral. I can't even explain it past that, but it is super unique, and I do enjoy those terpenes. Though they don't get me high. Unfortunately, I have the tolerance of a elephant. Apparently there's a certain amount of us that have a gene. It's like RN something, and it's common in redheads, where there's a gene that some of us have that cannabis doesn't get us high. And I could smoke anything, and I don't get loaded. It's pretty wild. It's hard to judge when I'm doing one of the cannabis cups. You're like, that's messed up, but
well, the
Wow.
cannabis cups have another problem is that you're judging too much product in too short of a period of time.
yeah. They
Like
solved that through many years. I worked with the Emerald Cup as a judge for maybe like 12, 15 years or something. And they solved that with that event, but not any other event that I participate in. You're really right on that. We have in the last years we've had like, I think it was like almost 2 months to judge the product. Well, nowadays, like with CannaFest, I think we had like a week or something, and we're just like pounding it, and we're like, we don't know what got us high. Like,
So Not So Dog and I, we
Yeah.
did the Gene Traders Sour Diesel Showcase, and
yeah,
we got something like 35 different samples, and we
Mhm.
had like 3 days to do it. And
oh, yeah,
I mean, obviously we weren't judging the cannabis on the high because
yeah,
you're smoking that much. It's just, it doesn't happen, so it's just
right.
strictly on smokability, like the
Yeah,
flavor of
the
it.
look, the nose.
Yeah, and honestly, that's what matters the most to me anyway, but I just think it's the way these contests are judged. But you said something interesting about how you don't get high, and I don't get very high either. Um,
Really?
Smoking flower, and even like, I smoke Earl Hill. They make the
Oh,
best
yeah.
concentrates in my opinion, and I buy their sauce carts.
Oh, yeah.
Even this doesn't get me that high. The only way I get really high is when I do like dabs. If I
Oh, no,
take a
no.
dab, then I get high. But what you made me think about is, so next week we're gonna do a show with Dave from Budgelero, and we're gonna
Oh,
talk about
yeah.
long flowering strains and stuff like that. But what I told him is that, when people talk about the effect of long flowering strains, I'm like,
hmm
man, I really want that. I want to experience that. But when I smoke them, it just doesn't happen. And what he said was, and other people have said, well, you might have to stop smoking indica for a minute, or indica dominant strains, or the wide leaf variety strains for a while before you'll even feel the narrow leaf varieties. And um, oh, I was like, I thought my lady was driving by. I was like, holy shit. um, but
Hey,
yeah, so,
lady.
yeah, what's up, babe? Um, but yeah, so I I'm so jealous when people talk about the experiences they have with these narrow leaf strains, and I just, I smoked, Budgelero gave me, some weed. I don't know, it was when we did the show with him, and it just, I don't get that effect, and I really want it. So what I told him is, I was like, I have to get enough of these
Right. Well,
varieties.
what I looked into really is the fact that our receptors are really programmed. So for me, like I'm a goo girl and I've been smoking high elevation, really, really high cannabinoid bearing indica most of my life. So I'm really used to that like heavy sedation feeling, that real, that sweet, potent, like lingers in your mouth, like, that, kind of feel. But so working down in the Virgin Islands, I grow all these genetics and work with all this morphological testing to see, how can we raise the cannabinoid content and all these things. But it is so individual, like you're saying. It is much like alcohol. Some people are just affected differently by tequila, which is made by an agave plant, opposed to a vodka through a potato plant. It really is a specific recipe that we're working with. So it's kind of it's a broad conversation to have when it comes to like cause and effect of terpenes and cannabinoid profiles and like what type of plant it is. It's so individual. Like we can't compare that shit at all.
I didn't think that
What's
was
gonna work
true.
for
I
you don't
thought
work
alcohol was alcohol,
for
and
me.
that, if you drink enough of any kind of alcohol, it's gonna, like, maybe you prefer the flavor or there's other part, but like whether you drink beer or tequila, you're gonna get drunk, you know?
Yeah.
So, but like different
Yeah.
cannabis plants affect me different. So, I mean, I'm hoping that I get enough, long flowering, narrow leaf cannabis so that I can, take a few weeks and only smoke that and see if if I can experience that incredibly, you know, interesting effect that people describe from these plants. Also, he just started making dry sift and
Oh
wet
yeah.
hash. So I'm hoping that like if I smoke some, oh, this guy just hit a car right in front of me, like
Holy
backed into
shit.
the guy's car with his
Damn it.
bike rack.
Ah.
Sitting here on the
What I
street.
was gonna say, Gabby, where you were like, if you drink beer or tequila, you'll get drunk, but you'll have to drink like a lot more beer to
But
have
that's
like the
because the
same level of
percentage.
drunk, you
That's
know?
the percentage of alcohol. You know.
Yeah. Well,
So
I don't
Well,
know.
but you also have to remember that it's also about our metabolism,
Right.
not only about our genetic makeup, but our metabolism. You know how people like, if I go to start drinking alcohol on an empty stomach, like I'm gonna be fucking fired up. Like
Right. That's true. Yeah.
I'm gonna
Right.
be
You'll be a lot
sliding.
more drunk than if you had food in
Like
there.
if we ingest
Yeah.
or smoke or use cannabis when we've had heavy food or a heady dinner, you know, it's gonna feel differently than.
well, we lost
Yeah.
her again.
I hear what she's saying.
While we wait for her to come back, I'm gonna tell you guys, this guy just backed into this car, and then he didn't even check to see if he caused any damage. You know,
Damn.
he wasn't moving that fast, but like,
Is he still there? Or he just went away?
so the funny thing is, he walked into the studio with like, you know, this shared workspace,
Wow.
where
After backing into the car?
yeah, he backed into the car, and then he like didn't even look for the damage, and he just walked into this Keller Street workspace, and I'm just like,
Wow.
some people are
That's
just shit.
pretty wild.
Take a look to see if he did damage to this car.
Man, I thought that only happened in Europe where they have those rubber bumpers. I definitely have watched many people parallel parking in Europe where they'll like bump into the bumpers and the front and the back bumper. And it seems like it's okay.
He didn't hurt the car, but
No, right on.
There was really a wreck in front of you, like.
not a wreck. This guy was parking, and he just like bumped this car, and the car that he bumped was like
Pardon.
a brand new car, like
Wow.
literally has brand new tags on it, and so he bumps this guy's car, and then he just like walks into the building, doesn't even like, because he like walked from the front of the car, he didn't even like check to see if he scratched this guy's car. It's just like,
Oh, that's when you know they're a bit pompous.
yeah.
Like
You know
those
what I
are.
wanted to talk to you about, AC Moon. I wanted to talk to you about um, cannabis in different countries, since you have this experience, like what cannabis culture is like in different countries. And you know,
Amazing.
I know a little something
It's
about like
so.
Jamaica and Holland and Spain, but like in the Caribbean,
Yeah.
you know, like the places that you've been, I don't know anything about it. Like, is it designed for tourists? Is it for locals? Like, what's creating
Well,
this cannabis, you know, market in these countries?
well, well. When I first started working in the Caribbean, I got brought down by the Canadian Cannabis Corporation down to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a archipelago, the Lesser Antilles Islands, 32 islands. It's about 60 miles off the coast of Venezuela, and then goes all the way down to Grenada. And so, yeah, tourism was the beginning. I was working with the Prime Minister of Agriculture, Cesar Saboto, at the time, and they knew that they were about to have, you know, their first medical marijuana and all of these things. But really, as always throughout the Caribbean, it's the Rastafari that we're protecting and we're focusing on. The Rastafari culture has preserved, imported, and really protected the cannabis and ganja culture in those areas. So I do work with a lot of Rastafari nations. All 12 houses are found throughout the Caribbean. So um, they definitely are the stewards of the plants in most of those demographics. You can at times find some Latinos that may be in a South American descent that may be preserving some of the Ecuadorian genetics and things like that. But for the most part, it is definitely fueled by the Rastafari. And so bringing that to front where they realize that it's tourism and it's a multi-billion-dollar tourism industry that they can enhance their community with, because a lot of these islands I work on, they're like 8 square miles. There's nothing there, and somebody got married and went there and they got a day of, while others might have tourist boats that show up that may drop 20,000 people on their shores for 8 hours and then get back on and go again. So tourism became definitely the plight flight. So much of the Caribbean now, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and now the USVI, you can go there with them and just legally use cannabis freely in their graphics. So they creating consumption lounges so that we have bar type models where we can consume cannabis on the beach instead of just alcohol, which is an amazing thing to be able to add to those commerce sectors. Because again, them not having any imports or exports really besides, salt really. They really just don't have any options. So it gives the people a place to work. It gives the kids and those coming through college like a new entry point. It's really different. But you can see a lot of the old blood, just like all of our other places. I had this entire curriculum set up. It took me 2 years to build this curriculum for the University of Virgin Islands, and specifically. And then the president of the university was changed right as we were about to launch this course for all the students that going to the university, and they're Muslim. And so our president shut down all the cannabis courses and degrees and tracks of study for fear out of like persecution by the Trump administration. Oh, they're going to take away our funding, this down. So there's a lot of still battle going on that's real similar to American soil in the way of where the old blood conservatives are still kind of trying to commandeer this new world that you can't stop. And all the younger people, they want it. They want to go to college to be able to learn this stuff. They want just that free information. It gives them hope when there wasn't anything else to look for. And so it's just amazing. Down in St. Vincent and the Grenadines was an amazing experience because it's a volcano. And so I had the opportunity. I went back in 2021, April 18th, the volcano, which is La Sulfurier, went off. And so when it exploded, it drowned well over 100 miles and blasted over 18 inches of polyclastic ash onto all the farms. And soil testing on some of the farms for doing the agricultural viability reports to build these legal medicinal farms, there was no nitrogen left in the soil on the island because it has such high UV exposure. So if you're not in the soil, it's drowning it out. But so one volcanic eruption, it was right, COVID was still during shutdown. It had already just been there during COVID. So I get back on the plane and I go try to find my way down to the island. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, we got people shoveling like this much, like literally 18 inches of ash on everything. So all of the farmers lost all of their genetics, all of the crops, a huge amount. The entire North Island became a lava flow. So plants just didn't live, obviously. Nothing lives when lava hits it. And so it just like barren wasted the whole side. And so I went to the cannabis growers. I flew down there and I went to the farms and started testing the water sources and seeing what's going on. And then we had a monsoon. And because of the monsoon, it spread all of this ash around and it literally fed the whole island chain to where I had 100% nitrogen, 100% potassium. Like
That's crazy.
6 weeks later, like almost immediately, the volcano fed all of the islands for as far as you can see. And so then I got to deal with, we created, one of my clients, I won't say the names here, but created just big ass greenhouses and brought modern, farming down to the island and, just did it very colonialized forms, but still using different soil mediums like Rabica, which Rabica down there it's like the lava rock. It's the dust from the lava rock. Super, super high in silicates. That's everything's going.
Yeah.
So when you plant your seeds, those seeds become like just way stronger just because of this huge
like super
vitamins. super amazing cultivations going on there. So I took a lot of genetics, and I have the Caribbean Cannabis Project where I get donations of seeds from anywhere in the world, and I bring them to the opposite places that they're from.
Hmm.
And I study their morphology, their adaptation, their cannabinoid profile changes, like all the things that would attack you from the opposite perspective, and see where the pitfalls are that and what it would take to adapt that cultivar to that opposite extreme genetic. And that again, it flows back into what we were talking about before. The last time the internet just kicked me off. Don't do it again, internet, you big old jerk face. And we have to remember that plant breeding rights are just inside America, right? So, or
Yeah.
excuse me, patents of any form.
Patents.
They're only protect you in America, in American waters. So when I'm working down in the Caribbean and I'm bringing these genetics down there, like it's a free for all. Whoever obtains those genetics are able to grow them freely. That's part
Yeah.
of what our society dotes on, is our freedom to exchange and grow and all those things. So it's
So would we lose that if we were to implement patented genetics? Would we lose that freedom to share and grow
well, yes,
with each other?
and they are. But that's why I wanted to implement, because I got shut off when I was speaking about it, is plant
Mhm.
breeding. So if you have 3 years of trials, meaning that you have your genetic testing with your allele map, no matter where you are in the world, that allele map, and 3 years of trials, meaning that you have taken clones, scions, or crossbred it, and have met a deduction and documentation showing that there is linear consistency within your growth patterns and harvest. So after 3 years of trials, and then you have all of this, then you can apply for your plant breeding rights. And plant breeding rights are global. That's
Okay, so that would be documented kind of ownership because you've been doing this work for this documented period of time.
It's basically the equivalent of man-made, like I discovered a genetic. It's basically the same process as if I was out in the Amazon, I discovered a plant that had never been documented in human society before. I did
Right.
my trial, did my documentation, and now I get to name it, and that
Yeah.
plant becomes mine. And so it's a
Right.
similar process, except for we're doing that in a man-made setting, doing our genetic trials by breeding and brassification, hardiness
Election.
for
Mhm.
3 years, and having that same consistency. Because in most hybrids that read nowadays, your pheno hunts are like 2,000 plants, because nothing is stable enough before it's crossbred that it ever
Mhm.
has any characteristics that are stable. So even if you pheno hunt something, that doesn't mean jack shit for the next generation, because it's not stable. Like, you have to stabilize your plants for at least 2 years before you can breed them. Like, if you're
Mhm.
not crossbreeding and stabilizing back to your mother chromosome or your father chromosome, then you're doing yourself no good as somebody who thinks that they're, working on genetic stability. And
Hmm.
what we're looking for in the larger commerce of the world, of what they're searching for in seeds, is consistency. When I
Right.
plant wheat pea, I want it to look like the picture on the front,
Right.
perform
Right.
in the way that it was saying on the back, in the climate zone, in the form, and it's going to give me the
Mhm.
harvest that is predictable.
Right.
So if you can, make that happen in your own house and have it all documented, then you can get your PBRs. And those PBRs can be global and make it so that you have a very fine licensing agreement. And it's
Huh.
pretty amazing.
So
It's
I hear what you're saying, and part of it makes sense, but the the thing that I would say, I don't want to say as devil's advocate, but on the other side would be like, so when you do that breeding, okay, where you get the consistency in the seeds, right?
yeah.
Now you don't have the outliers, good and bad. And so the outliers, that's why we do pheno hunts, because we're looking for that special stuff. So I think there's benefit in both. I think there's benefit in being able to plant seed and having uniformity. And I also think there's benefit in having, an F1 that has extreme diversity in the line, and you hunt through it, and that's how you find the special stuff.
Again,
If
though,
it's labeled as an
this is a different
F1, I think
market,
that's
though.
fair.
But again, you're talking about two different targets, Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the difference between having something finalized? This is a phone. No matter what I do to it, this is a fucking phone. And that's stabilization, right? That's making a finite product that can be sold into licensing or commerce. That's a finite product. I'm not researching this bitch anymore. It's a phone. But when you're going on a pheno hunt, you're looking towards an evolutionary thing. You're looking towards evolving something into greater. You're not looking for the concept of stabilizing what is there in order to create consistency. You're looking for the next best thing. So if your goal is to constantly be looking for the next best thing, but intellectual property rights, it's not going to be your jam because it's too much focused on something that is finitely detailed as this is what it is. I cannot argue it. And nobody else can steal it from me because it's fucking
Right.
mine. And
Yeah.
I made it. That recipe is mine, my recipe. And so that's the difference in that your directive on phyto hunting. If you are going in to look for something new, you're not going in to look for consistency. And
That's
and
why I said there's benefits in both.
yeah,
Mhm.
no,
You know, like
great.
there's benefits in having a stabilized seed line,
Mhm.
and then there's benefits in having stuff that has a lot of diversity in it.
Yeah, because you can find the next best thing in something that may be the most evolutionary, most awesome cultivar in the world. But if you are looking towards trying to gather a licensing agreement or trying to have your genetic into a space,
Now,
they
but
are
couldn't you do that with clones?
no, because clones do not behave the same way. They don't have a tap root and they don't have a nucleus that allows for adaptative hardiness, right? So like I can't truly hardy out a clone because it doesn't have a taproot. You only get a taproot from seed starts. It has a web-like inner wave, and it doesn't have the actual centralized brain of what creates a plant, which is the seed. And so it doesn't have an ability to retain the intelligence as much as if it has that nucleus brain inside of its biochemistry, from what I've studied at least.
I've never heard anyone say that
It's a
before,
different
but it
game.
is interesting.
Well, our seeds are literally like it's the egg, right? We can have what comes first, the chicken or the egg conversation doesn't apply here because we can't have clones without eggs. We can't have scions without the original egg. And that original egg, when I'm planting something out into the world, right? The moment that I put it into the soil or into water or anything else, that is a brain of its own, like an embryo inside of my body as a woman growing. And it is
Yeah.
getting all the information. It's programming all of its nutrient uptake, its oxygen uptake, and every other chemovaric from boron to magnesium to every single small element that we found in the periodic table. It's being programmed. And so that's really important. Did you just drop me again, internet? You bad internet, you.
No,
Oh,
we
you
can
did.
hear you.
It's moving. Yay.
We're
Oh,
just
cool.
being really still. We're like
Sorry, you guys
listening
don't
intently.
still. Keep moving for me so I know where you're there still. I'm like,
Yeah.
are they still there? Are they good?
Yeah, we're here.
But so when we're programming seeds, that's an adaptation, right? That's evolution. If you're growing something only indoor forever, those genetics are dumb. They're dumb. Literally riding the short bus to work on the little yellow bus. They have not had the opportunity to learn from Mother Nature, who is our core source of information. And the more that we put a plant, like I will purposely kill a plant 7 or 8 times before I stabilize it to breed. Like I will give it powdery mildew. I will make sure that it gets some.
Uh-oh.
I think we might have to wrap this up and then continue on another day.
We got a couple hours in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish I could hear. Yeah, where you're at, you're real noisy too. Like when you unmute your thing, it's like car noise and stuff.
I kept muting myself so that I could be out here and smoke. I could go inside too, but I kind of feel like we might just need to wrap it up for
It gets
today.
infected by pests.
She comes in and out. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going to take this moment to thank everybody for watching and
Yeah.
tolerating with us having some technical difficulties It happens sometimes. We are doing.
Yeah.
Now we
We're
got.
Wow.
sort of like a game now. You know, in the arcade when the beaver like pops up and you go like smack
There's
it
like
in the
2
head with
AC
the
moons
wallet.
on my screen.
I'm just gonna randomly pop up. I'm sorry.
We decided that we are going to call the show and, try to hook up with you again. Maybe you'll have a little bit of better reception when you're in the islands. Who knows, right?
We don't know. Yeah.
But
Oh well.
I appreciate everyone that joined us today, and I appreciate UAC. I know that you had to drive 30, 40 minutes off the hill to just be able to do what you're doing today. Oh, that's a noisy truck. Sorry about that.
What I've been told is that there's better reception in one of the other offices if you guys want me to move and try again.
Hmm.
It's up to you. I'm
I
hoping it doesn't keep shutting off because I also haven't been able to see Sequoia this whole time.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you can't see me.
I think we should just try again in the future and maybe do a test beforehand and see if we have,
Aw.
better reception. Did we lose her again?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I think we're just sad about it. We're just trying to talk about stuff.
I mean, if you guys want
I'm here now. Can you hear me guys? Can you guys hear me
Mhm.
now?
hear
Are
you
we
now.
still live?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, we're live right now.
Well,
Yeah.
let's speed things up for the beautiful clients out there that are watching.
You want to try to walk into the other room where you have better Wi-Fi? And I'm going to walk inside where it won't be so noisy.
Are you
Yeah,
having
maybe
that?
we can do that.
Okay.
See if you can get into a place where we cannot get cut off a bunch.
Let me see.
So,
Hold on just a second.
okay. All right, everybody is moving around out there. Yeah, I thought that even though this was kind of a maybe hard moment to get AC to join us because she did have to come down off the mountain and stuff, I think it was also really impeccable timing for people to be considering the massive implications of the rescheduling into Schedule 3 and the way that cannabis is going to be redefined and how it's going to affect our lives as home growers and what we might want to say to our representatives, that we need to be calling up and explaining that what we are, wanting is to be able to have access to our own seeds and genetics and ability to grow our own. A lot of people have voted on that, different areas around the country. So if your state has voted to legalize home grow, you should definitely be on the horn with your representative. Either way, you should be, but you should point out that their constituents wanted home grow and that they need to be protecting that.
That's so important right there. What you just said, girl, that's just
Mhm.
gold. We need to protect home grow above everything else. I mean, we can talk about intellectual property and commerce and all the things a billion times over, but protecting that last right of our freedom to grow whatever we choose to. They can't do what they're doing with opium.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I know it's tough with all of the pauses. I do get it. I get why the want to reschedule. I can see it.
I had to disconnect for a second just to get the headphones on, but we lost her
Oh.
again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did she try to go to
Although,
another?
no, I
the
don't
other-
think she ever left the room she was in.
Okay.
She went over by the door, and then I was talking about people needing to contact their representatives, and I think she's still in that same room. I'm basing that on the artwork behind her, though. It's just my simple observance of that is the only reason I thought she was in the same room.
Well, one thing we
Yeah.
need to do is make sure that when she does reconnect, even when we stop the podcast, that she stays and allows it to fully upload, or we'll lose all the
Right.
shorts and stuff.
Right.
Won't be able to upload it on Riverside. So, but anyway, I really appreciate everybody sticking through this podcast. It was a little bit difficult with technical difficulties.
Yeah.
But I think we did have some good information, and she is a great guest with great stories. It's just
Yeah.
when you live up on the hill like that, It's
Yeah.
it's just part of it.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
anything that you want to leave our guests with, Sarah Koya?
Well, let's see.
Or
Coming up here in a couple of weeks, we have Wilderness Goddess joining us. So that should be a good one.
I'm very
We're
excited
trying to
about
get
her.
Sue rescheduled to Carlton. Um,
Can I say something about Wilderness Goddess?
yeah, sure.
So I don't know who she is. I don't know her history in cannabis, but I I watch her shorts. Like she makes these
Hmm.
posts, from her gardens, and she's so positive. Like she always has this great message that made me say like, I want to hear more about what she has to say. So
Get her story.
I'm
Yeah.
excited that we're going to be doing that show.
Yeah.
Next week you're going to be gone, but
Hmm.
we're going to have Dave Bugilero on, and we're going to be talking about narrow leaf, long flowering plants.
Cool.
So, and we will have AC Moon back on again soon. We'll figure
Are you
something
still in the
out, right?
same room, lady? Are you?
I went out and I walked in a complete circle, and apparently the tech is here fixing their router because they're
Yeah.
having these issues with a couple of
Oh
people.
no.
And he's just like super apologetic,
Oh,
and
it's okay.
I just feel bad, and I tried really hard. I'm really sorry, you guys,
Oh
but
no, it's all good.
I
We'll do it
Yeah.
again soon.
Or, and if you guys want to try again, I know you have next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after that, I will be back on the coast where I have perfect reception. There's something
Mm.
going.
How long
Was-
will you be there? Maybe we could get you back that first week of August. That
I
last week
am.
of the month, we have our guest Wilderness Goddess booked on there.
Oh,
Uh,
that's awesome. Well, you just let me
Yeah.
know. We'll get it.
We'll talk.
Yeah, we'll
talk
work it
about
out.
it after the fact. I might be busy
Mhm.
that week, but that doesn't mean you can't do the show, Q. The first week
Yeah,
of
right on.
August. I might
Mhm.
take a couple
Yeah,
days.
absolutely. Well, the rescheduling hearings stop on the 15th, and by the 15th, we're really going to know where we stand with this entire thing. With the entire program is going to be held up with rescheduling. So
So
when
let
Are
me
you
those
ask you a
talking about
finals,
the
question with that
15th
real
of
fast.
August?
the 15th of July.
That's
That's
today.
today.
So,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that
yeah.
it was the last day of Congress holding what are going to be the definitive rules. So now within the next 2 weeks, we're going to be able to see exactly where they're taking us and our community and culture. And that's going to be a huge conversation, I think, bearing witness to this historical change is going to be real drastic. We got to keep getting people out there to they may be making the laws, but if we keep yelling, we can still change laws. This is America.
Right.
So no matter how many times you shadow ban us or shut the fucking internet off, we're still gonna talk about it.
Yeah. We need to. We need to do it more.
Well, let's
Oh,
do it
and
again
Uh,
soon. Hey, one
and
thing,
Yeah.
you're
AC
in
Moon.
Ohio. You're in
Mhm.
Ohio, and
I
you're in
am.
I'm in
Gabby's in
Cali.
Cali.
I'm in Sonoma County.
Oh, okay. Oh, excellent. Well, maybe
Hey,
I'll just
listen.
visit you in person.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do it here at the spot where I do my podcast. One thing, AC Moon, when we stop the podcast, you have to stay with us and make sure that it says fully uploaded. It might take 1 second. It could take a few minutes. So
It could take 2 hours.
yeah, don't hang up. And we're gonna say goodbye to everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and we will do
Thank
it
you,
again real soon.
Mason.
Again, everybody, next week we're gonna be doing it. Won't be
Yeah,
a
I'll be
wow
gone. I'll
show.
be off next week.
Yeah, it'll be your weed stories, and Dave Bugilero and I are going to be talking long flowering and narrow leaf strains. So if you guys want, you can start submitting your questions via direct message on Instagram at the Craft Growers Network. And I hope you guys have a great day.
Oh, that's gonna be a good one. And I wish I could have him down to the VI and talk about the Caribbean long
Oh,
strains, man.
I
Be a good
guarantee
one.
I guarantee
so
you, if
forward.
you're buying him a ticket, he's going. Me
Ah,
too.
well, we
Me
all
too,
have
for that
to-
matter. Let's do a podcast live from
You should.
St. Croix.
I mean, I need to get sponsored, but I really want to go.
We're doing the Envision Festival again, and it really is I'm bringing everybody that wants to come down and bring their brand or the booth down to the island to really teach the people like how we're going to create all these aspects and all the different options. You can do podcasts, you can grow, you can make this and this, because they really need that education. So the more we keep sharing education, the better. I super appreciate your guys' patience and everybody that has been putting up with my in the cuts internet reception, which is just shitty as hell. And
Yeah.
It's just
It-
part
When
of
are
it.
you doing your festival?
this one is going to be going on, I believe, in January. So I'm going to start putting
Okay.
those numbers out, and it'll be the first time that we see like all the people, because I don't want to let High Times on. I'm still worried about the new era of High Times, because the old era was so corrupt, and
Yeah.
Oh, the new one's not going to be any better
all
for
of
sure.
us that were
Oh, we're losing her again.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
Sure.
let's just call it quits. Thanks everybody for watching.